guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we've got a new Civivi. These have been around for a little while, but they're still pretty recent offerings from Civivi. This is the Civivi Sixgill. If you know anything about Civivi, if you know anything about the knife world, you probably know this is a Gavco design because it looks like a Gavco design and because he names all of his knives after sharks. And so there's been a bit of a collaboration here for a number of years, and it has resulted in a number of pretty interesting knives, both from Civivi and WE Knives. I do like some of Gavco knives, some of Michael Gavik's knives a whole lot. So it's kind of nice to see this ongoing collaboration. One of my favorites for production was actually made by WE, and that has got to be the thresher that was available through Massdrop. BRS also did a thresher, which is larger. So if you like something larger, which I kind of do, that might be a good option for you as well. Anyway, I don't want to reminisce too much about previous Gavco designs. We want to talk about this one here. This is a crossbar lock from Civivi. We also had the lock from Zach and the knife from Zach in the Wild, which I think was Civivi's first crossbar lock. So this will be their second. That particular knife was a little too small for me. Zach and Ben tend to like smaller knives than I do. So pretty much all of their knives are not interesting to me in the least because they're just too small for me to bother with. But this is a little bigger. Now it's still kind of on the small side for my preferences. Nonetheless, the design was cool enough and the opportunity to try a crossbar lock from Civivi was tempting enough to get me to pick this up. By the way, I've been on a little Ivory G10 kick. I kind of like this. I especially like it in the Vision, but I like it here as well. So I know it's probably a bad choice for a knife you're going to do a lot of hard work with because you're going to be dirty and, you know, you're going to take this outside. Anyway, it's going to get dirty easy. You can clean it up with a toothbrush or something, so it's not the worst idea ever. But I grant those of you who are like, Kevin, your knife's going to be disgusting. You're probably not wrong. Okay. Nitro V steel on this, full belly, thin blade stock, which has been pretty typical for Civivi of late. I've often complained about that, and I wish there was a little bit more of a trend toward at least moderate thickness of steels on, you know, just knives in general. But the trend right now is toward thinner steels, so that's fine. It's not the end of the world. It just, you just have to make choices about what you're going to carry at what time. So I would class this as like light duty EDC rather than heavy duty or hard use EDC. All right. One thing I will say is I hope to see, I know EDC and C and yeah. I hope that Civivi will use this crossbar lock on something a little more substantial. On the, They've had a couple of sort of tactical-ish knives lately. They've had liner locks, though, and I feel like that's a bit of a miss. I feel like this lock would be more appropriate on that style of knife since it's a heavier-duty locking mechanism. And so, while I like this design and this size is great for EDC, I look forward to what Civivi could possibly do with this in more of a hard use, you know, heavy duty type of knife. Now, thinking of size and weight on this, you know, I've complained a little bit about how small it is, 7 13/16 overall. So this is a decent size knife, right? It's still under 8 inches, but it's not going to be a big problem. The blade on this is 3 3/8 inches, so that's just a hair under what I like to see. So if you've been around the channel for very long at all, you know I prefer 3.5 inch blades or slightly above, but this is almost there, so it's okay. Now there's only 3 1/8 inches of cutting edge. And the other thing to think about here is if you have really big hands, so the grip area is only 3.5 inches. Now that works fine for a 4-finger grip for me, but if you have hands much larger than mine, you probably are not going to find yourself being very comfortable on this particular handle. It would need to be a little bit bigger. I might also point out that I think this is one of those designs, I know I'm like a broken record here, but this is one of those designs that I think really does lend itself to a larger option. So a Sixgill XL would kind of be a cool offering, I think. I know I say that way too much, but nonetheless, there it is. The closed dimension is 4 7/16, so a little under 4.5 inches. All right. And the weight on this guy is 3.5 ounces, which is perfectly fine for a knife of this size. It's not like this crazy light knife that blows all other knives out of the water, but it's definitely a comfortable weight to carry in pocket. And that's where this shines. It does land in sort of a nice medium size where, you know, good knife to carry around if you want to have that full size handle and a reasonably good amount of cutting edge, but you still want something kind of on the smallish side, kind of on the lightweight side. Yeah, this is a nice offering in that department. The action, by the way, is phenomenal. The Nitro V steel is well ground. It's nice and thin behind the edge. So all of that stuff is as expected. I almost feel like I don't need to say much about that for Civivis because they do such a good job consistently. The only thing I will say about the action is one of the things I often do to test crossbar locks is try to actuate with one finger. This is very difficult to actuate with one finger. You're almost forced to do the pinch. And the pinch works fine, but most Benchmades, every Benchmade I've ever tried, you could at least actuate the lock with just your thumb. And that has not been the case with some of the others. So I'll bring in a couple of other sort of competitive-ish options. Here is the CJRB Acacia. The action is a little bit different on this, a little snappier. Again, you can actuate this with one finger better than you can the Civivi, but it's not super easy. And then I've got the Tenable Cryo here as well. I can actuate it with one finger, but it's not perfect. Now, this is a much larger knife, a little more in my wheelhouse. But those are some budget crossbar lock options that might be of interest to you. And I'll have more to say about all of this in my full review. For now, that's a quick once over on the Civivi Sixgill. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.